everyone, myself Swati Jayavant Kokate from Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School. Students, we were learning about history lesson number 3, that is ruling the countryside. Okay. In that we have seen how the company came into India, East India Company, that is Britishers, they came into India. Many of the rulers, they went to countryside and they were adopting the rule of what we can say, they were dividing the divide and rule policy they were adopting. Also we have seen the company becomes the Diwan, isn't it? Then we have seen how the company used to collect revenue. Then why they thought that there is a need of agriculture, means to earn more profit from agriculture, to get raw material from India and export to their countries and within cheap rate. Also this was the main aim of the company. Then we have seen that what was permanent settlement, isn't it, and what were the problems with it. Then we have seen the new system was devised, that is means there was always changes in whatever the policies were adopted. Also there were problems because the peasant, they never got profit in that. Okay, they were always the what we can say, that they you had to struggle a lot for their bread and butter and they would not get the profit. Who was in profit? Only the company. Okay. Then we have seen the Monroe system, what it was, and then also it was not well. It was also having some limitations. Then which crop was grown in Europe, means crops for Europe. It was obviously grown in India, Bengal and all, and just exported to Europe. Then we have seen that why there was demand for Indian indigo, isn't it? We had seen two types in that blue color, how from that blue color indigo the cloth was dyed, means the color was given to that product or to that cloth. Then we have seen Britain turns to India when there was more profit in indigo, isn't it? There was demand in worldwide demand, means not only in India, in some countries, but whole over the world there was demand for indigo color, that is blue color, and it was grown mostly, the temperature which was good was in India and more it was grown in India. So we have seen that from the last decades of 18th century, Indian cultivation in Bengal expanded and it was worldwide spread. Then only 30% of the indigo imported into Britain was from India, but in 1810 it was, the proportion had gone up to 95%. Here we have seen that the proportion has gone up to 95%. As the indigo trade grew, commercial agents, okay, those who want to invest, the agents who want to invest, then officials of the company, they began to invest in indigo production. Over the years, many company officials left their jobs. Okay, there's many officers also left their jobs to look after the indigo business. As there was more profit in it, they also, everyone wanted to earn income or earn a profit in this. Attracted by the prospect of high profits, numerous Scotsmen and Englishmen came to India and became planters. See, these also means many of the Britishers also and foreigners also from many countries, they started to come to India and they started becoming planters. What is planters? How they wanted to earn here, we will see. Okay. Those who had no money to produce indigo could get loans from the company and the banks that were coming up at that time. So the people of India, the peasants, the farmers, those who did not have money to cultivate their land, okay, for the production of indigo, what these people, what these Britishers, these foreigners, what they did, they gave loan, okay, some money to produce indigo, that is buying seeds, fertilizers, whatever is needed for that cultivation, they used to give money, that is loan, which we take from banks, isn't it? So like bank, they used to charge interest on it and they used to give to these peasants. So peasants, what they thought, that so nice these people are, they are giving us loan, our whatever land was, we were not earning anything, but they are giving us money, okay, in advance. Here when they are when they were getting money before any product was yield in the farm, they were happy, very happy at the first time, but how harsh this tendency was, they came to know it afterwards. What was their treatment, children? For what reason they were giving the loan? Because they wanted to earn profit, isn't it? The selfish thing was that these Britishers, they wanted to earn profit there. Let us see now how this indigo was cultivated, what schemes they adopted, or two types were there, okay. Main two systems of indigo cultivation was there. One is niche and second one was Ryote. Then within this system of niche, now let us first understand, children, what is niche cultivation, okay. Niche is means one type of cultivation under niche. It is a name, okay, of that type of cultivation. It is not a product. Indigo is the product, okay. That plant is indigo. Then how it, the two systems were been applicable at British times. What these companies did, the first one was niche cultivation. Under this type, what the planters produced indigo in land, that he directly controlled, means the company, or we can say the Britishers, okay, they used to control the land. He either bought the land on rent it from the zamindars and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. Means what happened, when this company or when these people came from this Englishman, and we have seen who was Scotsman, Englishman, they came, isn't it? They came only for this profit earning, means we will go in India, we will settle for some years, we will produce more and more indigo, we will buy here for cheap rate, and here we will sell it for a higher profit, higher margin. So they came to India, and under this two types were given, okay. The first one was niche. In this we will study that in niche cultivation what they did, the planters, okay, these owners, means they were not owners of the land, but what they did, with the help of zamindars, okay, and other, means they took the land, they purchased the land on rent basis, means they gave some of the money to the zamindars, those who were having that land, and they started producing indigo directly on their land. Means and they what the zamindars would get, they would get some money for some years, isn't it? But and what this did, this under niche cultivations, these foreigners, they hired laborers. Who were the laborers? The Indian were the laborers. They only took the land, okay, on rent. Then what they did, they hired laborers, means they were not personally working on the land. What they did, they hired laborers, and these laborers were Indian people. This was first system, that is niche system. Then what was the problem with niche cultivation, children? Let us see. The planters found it difficult to expand the area under niche cultivation. Means now where the people will live, first of all the population was more in India, isn't it? And they wanted to extend their farms, their fields, but it was the population, means the area already it was densely populated, more population was there. Then indigo, one of the drawbacks of indigo cultivation was there, we can say it, that the fertility of land, okay, was reduced at a large percent. Means if the farmers were growing indigo, the fertility of the soil of that land, okay, it went on becoming very poor. Means after some of the years the land became barren. Means what happens, nothing will grow there, children. Okay, when this, for some years if this indigo was cultivated, all the fertility of the soil becomes very poor, and for next few years till we get that fertility of the soil, that is more than 10, 15 or 20, 30 years, like this we do not get that fertility of the soil. And what would happen, the farmers, they had to keep their land or keep their farms barren. So this was one of the drawback of the cultivation of, what we can say, of this indigo plantation. Okay, this was one. Second was that densely populated, as I have discussed. Then only small plots scattered over the landscape could be acquired. Means see, near that landscape means only small part of the land can be used, as the population also was more, and also they have planted, what was the main crop grown there, also the people were engaged in rice cultivation. Okay, so they got 25% or 30% of the land for growing this indigo. So this was also one of the problem faced with the niche cultivation. They attempted to lease the land around the indigo factory and evict the peasants from the area. So what happened, they attempted to lease, means give the land, okay, around the indigo factory, and they evict the peasants, means they appointed the peasants, we can say, from the area, but this was led to conflicts and tensions. So near the factory, whatever the area was there, how much can it produce this cultivation or this indigo product, isn't it? So there was always conflicts and tensions in the peasants and these cultivators. Nor was labor easy to mobilize. Means what, children? See, the factories were there and the production was at other place, isn't it? So they wanted many laborers for the working in the field, okay, of this indigo cultivation. But what happened, to mobilize means to take the laborers from one place where they are living to the long away where they were growing, to the farms or to the field, okay, where they were growing this crop. So it was not easy, because at that times vehicles were not there, isn't it? Like how we are having now trains or cars or and like that, they had to travel a long distance in bullocks or by walking. So a large plantation required a vast number of hands to operate. Means what? A large plantations, if the plantation was done on a large quantity, it required too many hands, means many people or many workers to work in the land, isn't it? And laborer was needed precisely at that time when peasants were usually busy with their rice cultivation. As I told you, some of the farmers, they had first only undertook the fields for the cultivation of rice. Then these workers were also needed for the cultivation of rice, isn't it? So there was always a conflict whether this worker should go in the rice cultivation field or they should go to the indigo cultivation fields. So like this, these were the problems with niche cultivation. Niche, you understood, children? We have seen that first one, niche means the land was taken by the foreigners on the rent basis and they had the authority to produce indigo directly by themselves. So the zamindars, they were not having a hold on their land, they did not pass on their lands, means just they gave like rent or they just gave it for some years and they did not have a hold on their land now. So and we have seen the problems with niche. Niche cultivation on a large scale also acquired many plows and bullocks. Also see, like this niche cultivation means under this niche again drawbacks are there. What happened? They needed too many plows, okay, and bullocks. At that time, they for plowing the field, they did not have tractors or other equipments, only the way was bullocks. 1 bigha of indigo cultivation required 2 plows. Means see, what is bigha? Bigha means a unit measurement of land. Before British rule, the size of this area varied. In Bengal, the British standardized it about 1/3 of an acre. So, what is bigha? Bigha means we can say at that time 1/3 of an acre. Now, we just measure the land as 1 acre, 2 acre, isn't it? So, bigha was 1/3 of the acre. So, for 1/3 of the acre, it required 2 plows, means instead of where 1000 bigha would require 2000 plows, means the means required amount, number of plows was double of other cultivations. Okay. Investing on purchase and maintenance of plows was also a big problem, because see, the number doubled, isn't it? Where the need was of 1000, here for cultivation of this crop, that is indigo, they required 2000 plows, and for purchasing those many things and maintaining it it was a big problem for them. Nor could supplies be easily got from the peasants, since the plows and bullocks were already involved in the rice fields, isn't it? See, only indigo cultivation was enough for what? Rice or wheat, whatever food was required for them, that cultivation was also important, isn't it? If they don't grow rice or whatever other vegetables or whatever other things are required for their food purpose, whether they will get any food to eat for the next year? No. So, these bullocks and these also plows were engaged in rice cultivation. Again, exactly the same indigo planters needed them. So, this was always the conflict, and always there was a question that who will take the plows, who will take the bullocks, isn't it? Till the late 19th century, planters were therefore reluctant, okay, means unwilling to expand the area under niche cultivation. So, till 19th century means first when they got the money in advance for the land, they were very happy that okay, we got advance money, but afterwards the planters, they were not happy, or they were not willing to expand the area for under niche cultivation. Less than 25% of the land producing indigo was under this system. So, less than 25% was under this what we call niche system, and the rest was under the mode of Ryorty system. Now, we have seen niche cultivation. The second one we are going to see is what is Ryorty system. Now, let us see indigo on the lands of ryots. Under the Ryorty system, the planters forced the ryots to sign a contract and agreement, and this agreement was known as satta. See, in this Ryorty system, the planters, okay, they came from foreign countries, and what they did, they just made compulsion to have a contract and agreement, okay, and at that time they pressurized the village headmen to sign the contract on behalf of the ryots. Means not directly these ryots or peasants were there, but the headman of the village, he signed a contract that those who had signed the contract got cash in advances from the planters to at low rates of interest to produce indigo. Okay. These people, what they gave, they also gave some money, but on behalf of these ryots, the main person or the village headman, we can say, he used to sign a contract on behalf of the ryots, and those who were signing the contract got cash in advances from the planters at low rate of interest to produce indigo. But the loan committed, but when they were getting the loan, the ryots to cultivate indigo on at least 25% of the area under their holdings. Means if the farmer was having the land under this system, he was made compulsion of making 25%. Okay, here we can see 25% of the area was to be cultivated under this holding. The planters provided the seeds, whatever drills, again what cultivation prepared soil, while the cultivators were preparing the soil. They sowed the seeds and look after the crops. So, the planters provided, means these people provided everything of good quality, and they were having the supervision on that, means whether these riots are working properly or no. See, we can see here how the work was being done in this picture, and here we are going to see how the indigo was produced. This is a picture or a painting by William Simpson in 1863. Here we can see the process, how this color was put here, okay, how this it was brought and all you can see. It is a beater vat, okay. Here the beater vat is there. This is one procedure. The indigo village were usually around the indigo factories owned by planters. As I told you that it was easy to move, means for the workers to work there, they used to live near the factories, okay. So, 3 or 4 vats were needed to manufacture the dye. Each vat had to separate function, then the leaves stripped of the indigo plants were first soaked in warm water in vat, means the fermenting was done. Then for several hours it was fermented. When the plants fermented, the liquid began to boil and bubble. Now the rotten leaves were taken out and the liquid drained out another vat that was placed just below the first vat, means the liquid was taken and the dried leaves were taken off. The second vat, known as beater vat, the solution was continuously stirred, okay, and beaten with the paddles. When the liquid gradually turned green and then blue, lime water was added to the vat. Gradually the indigo separated out its flakes, then the muddy sediment settled at the bottom of the vat and a clear liquid rose on the surface. So, here just the procedure of how the indigo, from indigo that color was got, and how these people of India, laborers, okay, they had to struggle a lot, as they were the landowner, but they had to work in the field, and how they had to struggle we have to see here. So, you can go through this again, how this was cultivated. So, when the crop was delivered to the planter after harvest, so now the crop was grown and it was again delivered to the planter that it is ready. Again the planter used to give new loan to the riot, and the cycle started to continue again, because the peasant who initially tempted by the loans soon realized that how harsh the system was. Means see, this loan he has got, but one or the other day he has to return it back to the planter, isn't it? So, again when the crop was grown, the planter again gave the loan to that peasant to grow more indigo, but he was taking that indigo at a very low price than the produced, means he was not getting any profit from that. Then he came, then the peasants or the Indian people, they came to know that how this harsh system was. First they were happy that okay, we are getting money in advance and all, but they were unknown of the next day, means of tomorrow, that is they had to pay the loan, means this cycle of loans never ended. Also they had to pay interest on it, even the principal amount also they had to return it back. There were no other problems too. The peasant planters usually insisted that indigo be cultivated on the best soils in which peasants preferred to cultivate rice. Also there was problem that the planters, they were forcing the cultivators to cultivate the indigo where they were growing rice cultivations, because the soil was very fertile there. Indigo moreover had deep roots and it exhausted the soil rapidly. As I told you, the fertility of the soil was exhausted. After an indigo harvest, the land could not be sown after with the rice, means when the indigo plantation was there, after that this means sown, rice was not cultivated on that land. This was also one of the drawback. So, let us see now children what is blue rebellion. Means blue means what? Rebellion means to rebel or to say no whatever is going on, we are not going to produce this, that is called rebellion. So, now why blue rebellion? Means blue means they were cultivating this indigo plant and they were getting blue color from it. So, this rebellion is called as blue rebellion. In March 1859, thousands of ryots in Bengal refused to grow indigo. As the rebellion spread, ryots refused to pay rent to the planters and attacked indigo factories. So, the people started to attack with swords, spears, bows, arrows. Women also started with fighting with pots, pans. Also, they boycotted the people who helped the planters. And the Gomastas, who was the Gomasta? Agent of the planter who came to collect the rent. They also were beaten by the people, means the people started beating the Gomastas also if they came to ask for rent. Ryots swore they would not longer take this advance to sow indigo. So, the ryots took the promise or they took a swore that again we will not do this. Also, the people were bullied by the planters, lathials. They yielded welded strong men mentored by the planters. So, like this they refused to produce any crop again. Why did the indigo peasants decide this, that they will not produce this? What gave them power to rebel? Clearly, the indigo system was intensely oppressive, means this was very harsh system. They came to know and they started to oppose it. So, in 1859, the indigo ryots felt that they had the support of local zamindars, village headmen, their rebellions against the planters. So, these also people started supporting them. In many villages, headmen who had been forced to sign indigo contracts mobilized the indigo peasants and fought pitched battles with lathials. Like this they had a fight with them. So, there was a rebellion, we can say. In other places, even zamindars went around villages urging the ryots to resist the plants. They were also now refusing. So, the indigo peasants also imagined that the British government would support them in their struggle against the planters. And after the revolt of 1857, the British government was particularly worried about the possibility of another popular rebellion when the news spread of the simmering revolt in the indigo district. So, the lieutenant governor toured the region in the winter of 1859 and the ryots saw that the tour as a sign of government sympathy for their plight. When in Barsat, the magistrate Ashley Eden issued a notice stating that ryots would not be compelled to accept indigo contract. Word went around the Queen Victoria had declared that indigo need not be sown. So, like this it was declared that indigo need not be sown. Eden was trying to placate the peasants and control the explosive situation, but this action was read as support for the rebellion. So, what is placate? It is opening in a garment. Okay, this placate means you can note down it is an opening. So, like this the rebellion was there, and as the rebellion spread, intellectuals from Calcutta rushed to the indigo district. They wrote of the misery of the ryots, means how tyranny or how it was harsh, all they wrote, and the horrors, how evil or how dangerous it was. Worried by the rebellion, the government brought in the military to protect the planters from assault. What is assault? Make a physical attack on, means the peasants, they were very angry on these planters, and just to protect the attack, the Indigo Commission to inquire it into system of indigo production. The commission held planters guilty and criticized them for coercive methods they used for indigo cultivators. It declared that indigo production was not profitable for the ryots. The commission asked the ryots to fulfill their existing contracts, but also told them that they could refuse to produce indigo in future. So like this they were asked not to do it again. So after the revolt, indigo production collapsed in Bengal, but the planters now shifted their operations into Bihar with discovery of synthetic dyes. Okay, again in means from Bihar it started, from Bengal it started to Bihar, but their synthetic dyes were also produced in late 19th century, as the business was severely affected, but yet they managed to expand the production. So when Mahatma Gandhi returned from South Africa, a peasant from the Bihar persuaded that he with his camphor or with his and see that the plight for the indigo cultivation was there. Mahatma Gandhi then visited in 1917, marked by the beginning of this movement and also against the indigo planters. So like this there was a rebel, means the people they refused to produce indigo because it was very harsh, and the people, the peasants, they never got profit from it, isn't it? So we have seen how these people came and they wanted to cultivate the land. So children, just go through the lesson, read it once again and you will understand the lesson. Thank you.